What is a tornado? Well, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration describes them as violently rotating columns of air that extend from a thunderstorm which that is in contact with the ground. That would be the end of this video for you if you just wanted a brief explanation of what tornadoes are, but you're probably here because you're doom scrolling on weather videos and want to know exactly what is a tornado scientifically and how they are made. Now, before we even talk about tornadoes and how they're made and what they actually do, we should probably talk about something about C.A.P.E. Now, what is C.A.P.E? Well, connectivity, availability, potential, energy, or just C.A.P.E, is a system used by meteorological agencies to determine the potential the atmosphere has to produce a thunderstorm. It's essentially a measurement of atmospheric instability. C.A.P.E is measured by, and I am going to plagiarize this straight from the NOAA, determining the area between the environmental temperature and the trajectory of an air parcel that is forced upwards. This is all expressed in joules per kilogram. Basically, it's just measuring unstable energy. Now, using this C.A.P.E, we can see if there's a possibility of a thunderstorm being produced, but we're still missing something. We're missing two things, actually: a cold and a warm front. Now, these fronts, they're moving in different directions, and they're obviously in different temperature zones. Colder winds normally come from the Canadian mountains and Canadians like winter storms, and the warmer weather comes from the very hot and humid Mexican Gulf zones. Now, when these two fronts collide, they're gonna mix, because warm air is hotter and heat likes to rise. It's gonna rise while the cold air sits on the ground, and that's going to cause an updraft, which causes clouds and moisture to push up in the sky, making more clouds, making more condensation, which means there's more precipitation in the air. Now, there is something called a wind shear. This is basically the change of direction and or speed in wind. These help updrafts by helping them push themselves into the sky and at fast rates too. Now, at some point, all that precipitation and condensation is going to get very heavy, and because it's really high up in the sky, it's kind of cold, so sometimes it kind of freezes, and that's where we get hail. But because it's getting heavier and heavier as it rises up into the sky, it just can't hold it no more, so that's when it all comes down and becomes actual precipitation or rain. And all at the same time, when this precipitation's coming down, it's going to bring a lot of air with it. This is where we get downdrafts. Downdrafts are the winds that are blowing down with the precipitation. These are actually what do a lot of the damage when it comes to wind damage for most storms. Now, there is another thing that's going on. Remember those cold and warm fronts we're talking about? Well, we know how they twist, right? Well, they're spiraling, and sometimes one side of the spiral has a lot more warm air than the other side, and because warmer air rises, it's just going to rise and get mixed in with that updraft, and that's where the thunderstorm's going to rotate. This is where we get supercells, a rotating thunderstorm. Supercells are the most likely storm to produce a tornado. In fact, they produce 100% of the greater tornadoes that are ranked EF2 or higher, and we will get into the enhanced Fujita scale later on. Now, I want to clarify that every single storm possible is capable of making a tornado. The ingredients are there when these storms happen, but a lot of times you're more likely to win some sort of lottery than a tornado be produced. That is why supercells are more likely to make a tornado. That rotation is already there, where in normal storms, it's just a storm, but the ingredients are there, and it is capable. Okay, but you're probably wondering, where does a tornado fit in the equation? Well, those spiraling winds from the fronts, well, when they're rising, sometimes they mix in with the condensation clouds too, and because one side is rising, that cold air, which is denser, is going to push itself away, and colder air hits the ground. That's when the ground starts to spiral too, starts to pick up dust in that spiraling motion. And because it's mixing with the condensation clouds, and the condensation is colder, it's also going to hit the ground. That's when we get a funnel. and how strong it is and what shape it is all dependent on the storm conditions, the atmosphere, and yada yada, most of the stuff I explained before. The tornado has now roped out. It's gone. Hopefully no one got hurt. What now? Well then, surveyors will go out and manage the damage and record it, and depending on how bad the damage is, contrary to popular belief, it'll get a rating on a scale of EFU, or unknown, to EF5. This is what we know as the Enhanced Fujita scale, which was made by Tom Fujita and was adopted by the NOAA in 2007, which is a sequel to the Fujita scale, which is the same thing. Starting off with EFU, which is really unofficial, but it just means that it was unmeasurable, or it didn't do any damage. It didn't do anything. And EF0, it really doesn't do much either. They may take a few branches down, maybe even snap a big branch off a tree, and then maybe take a couple shingles off your roof and then call it a day. Best case scenario for everyone. But an EF1 tornado is a little worse. Trees can be snapped in half because of the wind damage. Maybe even uprooted if it's a smaller base tree. Trailers and mobile homes can be lifted up, flipped if it's a smaller trailer and has an unequal base, and can be lifted off and pushed off its foundations a bit. And your shingles might need a rework. EF2 tornadoes is the start of what is called severe tornadoes. Entire mobile homes and trailers are destroyed, making them very unreliable for tornado safety. Entire trees can be uprooted from the ground, and even if you live in a well-built home, your roof could be shredded apart. EF3 tornadoes cause severe damage. This is when cars can be lifted up and moved, and sometimes even tossed if they're smaller in weight. Well-built homes have damage that can be beyond repair on outer walls, and this is the last time that interior rooms on the first floor can be deemed safe for taking cover from a tornado. EF4 tornadoes leave devastated and ripped apart homes, scattered off their foundations, and leave the huge debris piles. Cars can be tossed like dolls in the air and tossed far away. The worst case scenario being an EF5. These tornadoes are deadly. Unless you are in a basement, your chances of survival are very slim, if anything. Entire houses are blown away off their foundations, left unrecognizable but the concrete and maybe a few pipes and rebar. Cars and almost anything that is picked up is guaranteed to become a missile in the air, just waiting to hit their target. Tornadoes are scary and deadly, so the government has emergency alert systems that tell you ahead of time so that you are prepared. Yes, they can be loud and annoying because obviously alert systems don't always talk about tornadoes, but statistics have shown that fatalities and injuries decrease really dramatically when people were warned of the situation beforehand. There are 5 different types of alerts, and I'll explain them using tacos so it's a little easier to understand. So a tornado watch is simply when you have all your ingredients laid out to make a taco. The taco could be made, but there's also a possibility that the taco would just go away. A tornado warning is when the taco is currently being made at that very moment, or the taco is prepared and done. A tornado emergency is kind of rare to come across, but it means that the taco is done, it's being eaten, and it's about to destroy your intestines and make you sit on the toilet for the next half an hour. Now, there are 2 more warnings or alerts. Those are the tornado watch and tornado warning PDS, aka particularly dangerous situation. It really means the same thing, but it just means that the taco ingredients are more richer and better quality. Whenever a tornado warning is being put in place and it is in effect, you should immediately get into the lowest point inside your house, whether it be a basement, some sort of exterior shelter, even if it doesn't have a door, or some sort of lowering nearby. I've seen people get into mechanic under apartments where they can get under cars. That works too. If you do not have a shelter or basement, some sort of lowering, head into the most interior room inside your house that has no windows, or the least amount of windows. Make sure to bring pillows, blankets, and even a mattress if possible to cover yourself in case the room were to collapse over you. It is a possibility and it might happen. Do not have that mentality where things will not happen to you because you are you. You can get some extra bonus points if you have a helmet on or some sort of other bodily protective gear like football equipment. Unless you are an experienced and educated or some sort of professional, do not gawk on and record the tornado. They are fascinating, I agree. But those internet points and all that 15 minutes of fame will not matter much if you're left unrecognizable and mangled by the sheer winds and horrors a tornado can do. That will be it for today. Thank you so much for watching the entire video, especially the first one that I've ever made. If I were to miss something, or if I made some sort of mistake, please let me know in the comments so that I can fix it later on and learn something myself. If you like this video, leave a subscription so that I can make more content and it'll be brought to you personally by YouTube. Leave a like or a dislike depending on how well this video did for you. Leave all feedback in the comments. Just try to be nice.